Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are, my friends. Welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Spaz.
And as always, there's never enough caffeine for these morning shows.
Never enough caffeine. It is 6:12 in the morning for us because we got up early to talk to our guest this morning in, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of the town, Germany. CEO of Egosoft, Bernd Lahan. Okay, that was terrible. It burned. I'm just gonna say burned. Welcome.
That's all. Hi, thank you for having me. No, Bernd is perfectly fine, and the name of the town is Wurzeln, by the way.
Wulzen. Oh my God, because
Wurzeln.
Ulzen. Okay, you put like what was it, an umlaut over the U, and Americans are just like Americans are just done. We're just like nope. Can't handle it. Sorry.
I'm used to it. I lived in Munich. I'm
oh,
used to
that's
that.
right. That's right. I'm not. Sorry, we're a little late, folks. We're having some technical difficulties with Discord, which happens sometimes, but we seem to be working now, thankfully. And we're very excited to talk about X4 Front. Keep wanting to say Frontiers for some reason. Foundations, as well as the series as a whole, because you pretty much. I want to talk about the series too, because you pretty much have, at this point, the longest running space game series. Pretty much. It's been almost 20.
Elite
Well,
was there before us.
That's true, but they had a long break, and you have more games over the time period that they do. They have what, 4? You guys have 7, 8. So yeah, maybe they're a little longer, but not. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they're the longest. Sorry, that's a good point. So you may be one of the longest running game series because the first game was 1999, and so it's been almost 20 years.
The development certainly is longer. Yeah, we started in the development for X Beyond the Frontier started in mid-90s already. We first actually started with a game for the Amiga, and then gave up on it, and then later revived part of that and turned it into the X development. So that seriously started in 1996, I believe, and yeah, so more than 20 years.
I have to be honest. I didn't know Egosoft was a thing before the X Games. Like, I didn't know you guys have been around since like 90, 91. I just did a little research, and you guys had about a dozen games in the can even before the first X game.
That's impossible to know in the US for sure, because what we did before then was really just very small titles that were only released in Germany, and for the most part to finance ourselves advertisement games. That was really the thing. I mean, we tried to do the serious games that we wanted to do, but that were just released in Germany and were really, really small. And to finance that development, we did a couple of advertisement games. So that is all basically impossible to know unless you're from Germany. And even in Germany, it's very unlikely that you would know any of those. A couple for educational purpose. Like we've heard a couple of fans over the time coming to us and saying, yeah, I saw this one game in school that was a simulator where you could actually simulate the government of a little island, and it was about ecology, education, and this kind of stuff. And we developed that, but that wasn't even with a big logo Egosoft on it. It was just
oh wow. I do see a Pepsi branded game here on the list of games on Wikipedia. So I see what you're. Was that
these advertisement things? Yeah, and Pepsi was one, and there was also, yeah, all kinds of things.
So I'd like to lead up to X4 because I mean the series has been fascinating. It's had such an amazing evolution. So I do want to talk about that because it's really a staple of the genre at this point. So like I do want to talk about X4, but I want to talk about the start of the series as a whole. You said there was an Amiga game that didn't really work out. Was that the first stab at an open space game for you guys?
Yeah, it was really the development out of the love for space games. Yeah, I was a big fan of Elite, and we this running basically in parallel to some of those other games that I mentioned and the advertisement stuff. But it was never really taking off, also in part due to technical limitations, and that was just really a very small development back then. And then real development for X Beyond the Frontier started with the 3D accelerator cards. That was I think with Windows 95, basically 1995. I remember I went to some development here in Europe. They were really making a lot of noise about 3D acceleration and the DirectX interface. Back then it was actually called differently, but it turned later into DirectX. And that was for us and really the motivation to revive this idea and make a space game based on 3D acceleration and those cool new cards.
Oh yeah, right. Like the first rendition and I think ATI cards.
Oh, that was even before Voodoo Extreme. That was Voodoo graphics. That was even before NVIDIA became a thing. NVIDIA was like, I remember when we were first invited over to a conference by Microsoft in Seattle, that they allowed game developers to meet up with graphic driver developers in a hotel on near the Microsoft campus, and we were invited by NVIDIA, which was a super small company, and their first generation of, I think, Riva.
Oh God, yeah, Riva. Oh my God. Oh my God, yeah, that takes me back. Oh my God. Wow. So the first game apparently did very well, because there have been 18,000 since. But I feel it's interesting because you guys hit just as the genre was in decline. Like your first, so you kind of helped carry us through those dark years of the aughts. You know what I mean? Because you guys were like the big deal for like a decade. Yeah,
it's true that the whole space games as a genre went down. Actually, we just had a little movie made here in Germany last year about exactly that topic, and some journalists from Cologne were trying to research the reasons behind that, and were interviewing us and some other game developers about exactly this phenomenon. And of course, in our case, it's a little bit unfair to say that my opinion on this whole thing, why were space games becoming less popular at that time, was, I said that in that movie as well, is that actually the rise of first-person action shooter games like Doom were at that same time, were more popular for pure action game, because before this time you had, as space games, you had also pure action games. So just the not Elite, but actually more like the Wing Commander games, and also the LucasArts Star Wars games, where they were really just about missions and space action, and not so much about the stuff that Elite does and that we do also, the economy simulation. Those kind of games were in a direct competition with Doom and with all the other shooters since then. And I think they had this inherent disadvantage that space has a problem with emptiness, kind of. You don't have these dense levels, you don't have walls to hide behind, and you don't have that fast-paced action. At least it's not so natural to it. You have to do something to create levels. You have to action near space stations, or you have to have asteroid fields, and there are games that do that very well, but it's hard. It's an obstacle that you have to overcome first, whereas a first-person shooter in a Doom environment level is more natural and works faster. So that's why it's a little bit unfair to compare, because, as I said, our games always added a lot on top of it, and were not just that. They also had the trading aspect. They also had the building of space stations, at least later. Well, building of space stations was not with the first part, but so the management of your own empire, all of that part that added to it. So that is why it's not so simple that you can put it in the game in one drawer together with Wing Commander.
Right. Yeah. It definitely has multiple hats. Would you, speaking of, would you say the economy is probably the biggest hat that this game wears?
Probably the most unique one. I think there's
Yeah,
other games that have the that have trading as well, but for
sure.
us, what's really special always is this the the authenticity, if you will, of it. The fact that we are actually simulating a whole lot of death in that economic universe. That every good in the universe is being manufactured by factories, and that the resources for those factories are delivered by ships. And if you blow up a ship, that the price for the resource can go up in the station. So that's an awful lot of simulation in the background for just the economy. I don't think there's any other game that does this, especially for a single player game, because most of the time you try to do things, as we call it, top down. Like you try to present an economy so that it makes sense for the player. Whereas we have this economy which we are simulating for the entire universe to be realistic, and to make it then a good experience for the player is then a balancing act on top of that. So that's I think pretty different approach to that part.
And I have to say, going into X4, this, to me at least, has been the game that has the most easily to understand economy. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not much of a trader. I'm usually more of a mission guy. And so when I look at an economy in a lot of space games, my eyes are just like, nope, we're done. I can't handle it. But with the map mode especially, you've really made great strides in making the economy, at least to someone like me, a lot more understandable. It's much more visual. You could see the parts moving a lot more, a lot easier. So I have to say thank you for making the economy much easier for someone like me to grok in the latest game.
I mean, definitely the map was one of the biggest developments. Actually, it is the single biggest new piece in for this game, because so much of the new gameplay is based just on that. It's not just the economy, but the economy benefits, of course, a lot. But it's also just the simple management aspects when you have fleets, when you have more than one ship. Also, just even exploration, things where there's lots of areas in the game where the map helps. But yeah, we also try to make the economy aspects simpler to understand, because especially with X Rebirth, we found that there were just too many different products and too many names to memorize, and too many unnecessarily complicated names and relations between different products. So we try to simplify that so it's more intuitive to understand what product and what resource goes into what, and how to see that actually on a map. Yeah.
And you've definitely done a better job, because it makes a lot more sense to me now. Like, because I've played all of the previous games, but I'm gonna be honest, I've bounced off of them a bit, because like, what am I doing? What does this work? What does this do? I don't understand. So I also got to thank you for the map mode and making missions a lot easier to find this time around. It's because like I said, I love missions. And the map mode makes that so great. Like, I love flying around, just, oh, mission. I love stacking missions and just having a to-do list. So that is wonderful for someone like me to be able to do that now.
The mission aspect is, of course, also something where we always went. It's hard to find the perfect balance. It's on the one hand, we tried with some games to have more of a storytelling aspect and the linear plot in the game, and that's always because the game has this epic universe, and we are trying to tell that story of the universe. I don't know if you know that, but there were also even books written in that by an author. Yeah, actually a whole series of books. It's by Helge Kautz, and already with the very first game to work with us. And yeah, unfortunately, the original ones were just written in Germany, so in German, so they were not published until I think Reunion, maybe the translation of the first book, Farnham's Legend, into English happened, and also into Russian, by the way. Like, Russia was always a special market for us as well, maybe because they are so affiliated with space.
Right. Yeah.
very, very nicely. But now with X4, we also translated the second book now into English and plan to do more of that. And so there is this background fiction of the universe, but the game was always struggling a little bit with linear storytelling in the game. Whenever we tried that, it didn't work too well with the sandbox aspect of the universe, because X games are predominantly sandbox. People want to play in very different kind of careers. Some go in and want to trade, some go in and want to fight, some want to build a military, some want to be pirates. And then a linear plot always has to make compromises on every side. And that's why with X4 we went more extreme in that sandbox aspect and cut back a little bit on this linearity of a plot. We have a plot, and it has a couple of really cool special things, like the research aspect and the unlocking of teleportation and some other technologies, but it's really short and just does its job. And then the idea is it leads you into other opportunities for independent mission chains. So there's this wars that are going on in the universe where you basically subscribe to a military to do missions for them, and other opportunities similarly with develop good relationships with some more jobs and more missions. And that's more like a sandbox approach to this mission thing.
Right. Sorry, folks. We're still having some Discord issues. I've noticed the server is kind of going in and out, so the audio is not the best. I apologize for that, but that's kind of one of the downsides of doing it live. Probably one of the few downsides of doing this live. You got some compliments on the books in the Twitch chat. That they're a lot of fun to read, so I will have to check those out. But yeah, I've noticed the missions are, I mean, you have some rote missions in the game, like fix this, take this there. But I've also liked that you've had some missions like, this guy stole this thing from me and I want it back. Can you go get that? Or my ship left me. Can you take me to it? So I've noticed there's a decent variety. There's like, what, a dozen different types of missions in the game so far?
I don't really know the total number. Yeah, there's I think it's more than a dozen base type of missions, and then there is text varieties and difficulty varieties on top of that, and then they are all stringed together into mission chains. That's what I meant before with those military war missions, for example, and then the storytelling can be different depending on which side you join. So like there can be even the same war that you can join on two different sides, like if the Tyranid are fighting with an Argon military faction, then you can either join the military or the Tyranid side. So that's and potentially play this similar missions still. So it's war missions.
And you guys have been working. You guys have been working hard on the war aspect, because it was apparently a little bit broken upon release. But apparently there was folks, if you haven't seen it, there's a 14-minute video, about 15 minutes. That Egosoft just released, talking about how they fixed the war aspect and what's coming in the next big patches that y'all should watch if you have any interest, because there's a lot coming for this game, which is very exciting.
Doing this video last night. Yeah, that's about this war problem. It's actually funny. I mean, the war was just a side effect of a whole sequence of little bugs that all kind of stalled the war in the long run. And it's always was very hard to find these bugs, because they always just show up after many dozens of hours of playtime. So if you just start the game, you wouldn't see it. But if you heard the reports, and then we had to test the game with we got from people, and even our testers before didn't have the chance to play with a single version for such a long time. That's part of the problems.
Oh, I see. I was wondering about the QA process that brought it to this point. So do you put on your testers, do you like, iterate very quickly? Is that why, as you were saying, they don't spend a lot of time with one version? Do you like patch, test, patch, test? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's a mixture. It depends really on what you are focusing on, and different testers also sometimes have different assignments. But so one aspect, and that is the aspect that he is mostly involved in, is the economy testing, where we always try to simulate long periods of time. But in that case, where we did just that, we didn't have some other aspects that counteracted here. So it's really complex. It's not just, if you just took the game and let it run with some help, basically in an accelerated mode, which we also do. Basically, we can simulate many hundreds of hours within just a day or two. But if we did that, then this bug wouldn't show up because of other, So if it would only happen if you actually play hundreds of hours. So that makes things complicated.
But I have to give you guys props for pushing out the post-release patches so quickly. That is really great to see that kind of, because I don't remember any of the previous games getting patched as much as or as quickly as this one. Has this been like the most patched one you've done since release?
No, I don't think so. It's, I mean, with X Rebirth, we had a lot more problems. It's just where the level that you get to is. I hope, and I had that feeling before launch, and now you get the distorted impression sometimes that lots of bugs are there. I hope that this is not the case for everybody. I mean, the bug that we are just talking about with the wars kind of fading away.
Right.
Hard to judge how many people were affected by that. It's of course if you only played, say, 10-20 hours in that week, you would probably not have noticed it. And of course it should be fixed when the new patch is applied, and you wouldn't notice it in the future either, because save games should work.
Right. But, and they have between versions. Thank you for that. Your save games have worked between versions. I think though, even though there have been some bugs, it's I think people are a little more forgiving, at least that I've noticed, for big open games like this, because there are just so many variables, and you can't test every variable until you put it into multiple players' hands. And then
certainly an inherent problem of our games, that they are so damn complex. We have so many things, and that indeed makes it very hard to have everything perfect. I really believe that this game is probably the best in that regard from all the X games we've ever released, because we had to make the decision for the release date like half a year ago. And at that time, I already, when we were testing ourselves, and at that time, I personally had a lot more time to test than I do have now, because with support and with press work 24/7. But at that time, when I was actually testing much more, I got a really good feeling about the game, because it was a lot of fun already then. And it's there are bugs, and there's still bugs here and there, but it's already, I think it's in a good condition, and can, of course, if it's a little bit hard to compare to a simpler title, a game that has not so many features, and then you have more of an opportunity to concentrate just on that one.
Yeah, exactly, because you've got like that huge background economy simulation, plus all these NPCs going around, plus all the stuff you're doing. You've also put stuff in the universe like satellites and other ships, so there's just so much going on that of course stuff is going to fall through the cracks. But
well, it's also technically easier to do that sort of troubleshooting and bug fixing when you have a more story-focused game.
Exactly.
Because when you have that more of a, I don't want to say linear, but a more focused narrative to go through, then it's easier to test. Okay, this checkpoint, this is what should be here. This is what should be happening. And with a more sandbox game with a much larger background economy and background simulation going on, you can't really test for every variable until it gets out into the wider audience. That makes total sense.
True, but it's still sad. I mean, I'm sorry for everybody who had a bad experience if it happens. There's not just that; it's also there's this other aspect that we have our own self-developed engine. That's of course also a little bit getting more and more of a rarity. That especially independent developers now have their own graphic engine, and I was actually that's an aspect that really surprised me, that we still had some technical issues with the graphic cards and graphic engine on release, because so many people have never run a Vulkan game on their machine before. We felt a little bit more safe in that regard because we had X Rebirth VR edition coming out last year, and that was already using the same graphics engine based on Vulkan. But of course, the target audience was a bit different. That was just high-end VR machines, even more high-end than what we are now. I mean, we still have pretty high minimum requirements, but then there are still people who are trying to play the game with machines that are below our minimum requirements, which may work. And of course, we don't want to tell people give up on it, but yeah, we are saying, yeah, that your graphic card has to have 3 gigabytes of graphic memory. And then people are finding out, yeah, but I can still play it with 2 gigabyte cards.
Yeah, I have to say, I have a pretty beefy machine here. I just got it built, and it runs great. Like I don't think I've had one crash. I mean, there've been some minor.
It's just that there are some people that have never run a Vulkan game, and then still we had one problem in particular where people couldn't run our game because they had at one point in the past an AMD driver on their machine, and the AMD driver left a file on uninstall that breaks our game now.
Oh my God.
They are now running on an NVIDIA card. And
what?
You have to manually delete that file from the Windows folder. Otherwise, our game wouldn't run. And that's something that's really sad. But yeah.
That might be one of the craziest, most minute bugs I've ever heard of. Like you have to find this one file that the thing didn't uninstall itself to run the entire game. That's insane. So we do have a couple of questions from from the Twitch chat. First, do you have to restart saves to reap the benefits of new patches, or do you have to restart a game to get the benefit of new patches, or will existing saves get the benefits? Like, will stalled economies recover if you start a saved game from a previous version? Is the question.
Yes, they should. Absolutely. It may take a while, but they should definitely recover. Yes.
Okay, good. Because I'm on several forums, so I asked them some questions, and you already answered some of them with that video. But it sounds like the stuff fixing the war, for example, also fixes the kind of kickstarting the larger economy into gear as well. Because I've seen a lot of more stations making things, building things, that sort of thing. So it sounds like it was a win-win situation to fix that particular problem.
Of course, the economy is based on the demand for stuff from wars. Basically, the conflicts in the universe are the drain for everything that is produced. So, or not everything, but a large fraction of what is produced. So, if the wars fade out, then we have a problem. Yeah.
We also have players confirming that the patch has created a lot more Xenon. So, yay, I guess. Another question from the chat. How big was the pressure from the industry or investors to implement loot boxes or microtransactions? Was there any pressure in that regard?
Don't have pressure from the outside now anymore, because this is completely independently developed. So that also means everything that happens you can blame on us alone.
Oh, okay.
That's great. There are no microtransactions or anything like that yet. We've certainly look a little bit envious on games like Star Citizen and thinking, wow, how much money could we make if we would sell people spaceships?
Oh, please don't go down that route. please don't go down.
No, seriously, I'm not criticizing that game. It's really great what they are doing, but of course this is a different way to market your game, and it is and I mean it's but yeah, we haven't done that, and we won't. But we are also thinking of what maybe in the long term having a compromise where we can get a little bit more money from during the years when the game is out, because you have to see when we bring out a new game, yeah, the game sells and that's great, but we have this is a very long period of development, and so
right, of course.
Another would definitely help us.
Another question from the Twitch chat: are we getting Boron and Split in the future?
I think we have announced that already, that we are working or we will be working on expansions. Boron are very close to my heart. I definitely want to have them in the game, and the Split are important for the full old retro X universe experience as well. So yes, we haven't made the decision yet which one goes into which expansion, but we will make expansions, and in every expansion there will probably be one race that added to the universe at the core of it, with everything that comes with it: new sectors, new ships, new economy.
Right, of course. Like I think Rebirth really benefited from a couple of expansions. Once those expansions were out, the game was really great. Like, you guys did a wonderful job turning that ship around. So I gotta say, props to that. We do have a question related to Rebirth. What was the biggest lesson you learned from that game? Oh,
there's so much you have to you can learn from your mistakes. There's always, I mean, I wouldn't say the game is a mistake, but there's certainly a lot of mistakes in the development process, and the biggest one, as a biggest single one, is probably that the biggest mistake is to do too many things at once from scratch, and to do too many things newly for a single product, because X Rebirth was the one product where we basically reinvented everything at the same time. We had a new graphic engine, we had a new core gameplay engine, we reinvented all the game mechanics, and we are usually best when we improve on a basis that was there before, and that is what we did with the X games before X Rebirth, where we basically always had a running game and then we improved on top of it. And that can include changing the graphic engine underneath, that can include also making bigger individual changes, but not everything at once. And that was probably the biggest mistake with X Rebirth development.
But in the end, X Rebirth turned out great. Like, it had a kind of a rocky start, of course, but in the end it turned into, I mean, eventually to me became the most until this one at least became the most accessible of the X games to me.
It was a goal. I mean, the one part of the goal, and also the reason why we didn't call it X4, was we wanted to open some new markets, get to some other people, not just the X fans. And the problem with that was the communication aspect of how you call it. We tried to call it, actually in the very beginning, we wanted to call it something entirely different and not even make it part of the X universe. That would probably have been a wise decision. But then it's very tempting for, if you're a small developer like us, Egosoft, and we have this established universe, there's so much that speaks to staying with one universe, also fiction-wise. So you have all of that background to take from and add to it. Creating something entirely new would be silly in that regard, but marketing-wise, it was dangerous, and that was leading to a lot of the bad reviews also for X Rebirth, were the incorrect assumptions or incorrect expectations when players started the game. If you played X3 before and you know X3, you know the user interface, and then you go to X Rebirth and everything is different, and the game had especially cut away some features, fly every ship, then then you are not a happy customer. And even though we tried to communicate that before, it didn't come across to everybody, or people just there's lots of things that went wrong with that game and the communication, but that is of course part of that that makes it hard to then get back. I mean, we worked hard on in the years after to get it back on track, and I think we did somewhat decent job with that, especially now when you have the end result. But it's always from the point of view of a customer, that has problems at the beginning, that's always, of course, not.
Well, interestingly enough, we've had some people in the Twitch chat saying this is their first X game. So maybe so that's great. I mean, maybe X Rebirth got people interested enough to try this new one, like the buzz about X Rebirth got people interested in this one. Because
that's definitely good. I mean, this is absolutely our goal, that we don't want to. I mean, this is what we were afraid of if we would have just continued with X3. It would have been a lot easier, of course, from a developer's point of view, to have to stick with not just the philosophy, but also with the engine and everything of X3 and continue that. And be very conservative with the game development, like not introduce new gameplay at all, stick exactly to the menus you have, stick exactly to the controls you have. Very conservative gameplay development, but then you are always, you are reducing your target audience. The people that are there will be very happy. They will give you great reviews. That's probably a very safe way to get very good reviews. Because people have what they expect. They don't go into the game and are unhappy with what they get. But it is a smaller and smaller number of people in the end. And we want to also get into new people and open their mind for some risky new gameplay experiences. So it's always trying to find a compromise.
Well, it sounds like you've done a great job, because I mean, the reviews for this one have been pretty good out the gate on Steam. That's been great to see. It's also been great to see it on the high sales list for a space game. That's phenomenal, you know.
The reviews on Steam are so important for us, and we are,
oh my god, important for anyone.
We are sitting here every day looking at that number, because it's we are now a little bit above 70%, and that's just so great. I mean, it's, as I said, the problem is that people who are coming, like especially conservative players who are unhappy with something, they are very quick to give a negative review, and it is pretty tough on Steam. You only have thumbs up or thumb down, and you have to have more than 70% of people saying thumb up, and that's actually really hard to achieve. So this is a pretty tough review system, and we are really, really happy that we are above the 70% now.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Steam's review system. I mean, I find it very useful as a consumer, but it gets bombed so many times. You know,
it's easy to game the system.
It's so easy to game it that
I don't know. Easy to game, I don't know. It's hard. It's really tough on the developer, and
exactly.
It's of course more. It's easier for a game that has a very, very clear and simple marketing message. If you make a jump and run, and this is like, and you say this is the jump and run, this is what it is, and then people love it, and then you get 90%, and that's great. But if for a game like ours, it's pretty tough, because people have these very different expectations. The one plays it as an economy simulator, the other goes in wants the action and wants the linear plot line, and then reviews are always going to be mixed. We have no chance in hell of ever going over 90% or something.
You can't please everyone when you are doing so many things at once. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, that you're trying to do that, because it's a very difficult road to go down. On the other hand, the people who really love the game, I'm looking at some of the reviews right now, and so many people that are leaving positive reviews because they're just really happy with what they were waiting for, they were hoping for, and it fit those expectations. That's great. It's great to see that, you know, from a developer perspective, but also from a consumer perspective, because that means, hey, more eyes on your game.
It's wonderful to see the feedback, of course, and yes, we have fans that give us the most wonderful reviews and love the game very much, and that's super, super cool for us. Unfortunately, on that review system, they can still only give us one thumb up.
Yes, I can only give one thumb for this game.
And that's the problem with that review system. You know, if I go on IMDb, I'm a big fan of movies, and I've done that for many years. I think I don't know, when did IMDb start? This must have been already in the 90s.
The 90s, yeah. It was a very early website. Yeah, very early.
I was giving reviews all the time and using IMDb for me personally to basically keep track of what I watched and how much I like this. And right from the very start, I had this very good idea of what is for me a 10, what is for me a 9, an 8, a 7.
Right.
And if I see a rating on IMDb and I see this one has 7 out of 10, then I know this is still a pretty good movie. This is getting an 8 point something on IMDb is like crazy good, yeah, in the long run. But yeah, with just thumb up and thumb down, it is much harder to get to that.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd at least do something a little more granular, like maybe 5 stars, you know, so people can give like a meh, you know, or a okay, or really good, you know. That might be a little.
Or if they could do something like what curators can do and mark a review as informative rather than a straight thumbs up
God,
or down.
I wish they could do that with people.
Yeah, because maybe they can say, hey, this game is not for me, I can't recommend it, but I know that for people who like this genre, they will love this game. I'm just not one of them. That would be more of an informative thumbs up rather than a straight up or down.
I don't know. It's I'm the wrong person to ask about that because, well, as a developer, you sit at the end and you have to live with it. And
yeah, exactly.
It is like it is. So,
well, it's also fascinating for us as consumers and curators to watch that as well, because you know, like there could be really good games that might get a review bomb, or there could be really bad games that, you know, pay people to give them good reviews. So it's not
I think that Steam does a good job against that. I have seen that happening. The whole reviewers that are trying to we've been contacted by people that say, here we have a website and give us keys and then we will review you positively. And I have forwarded that to Valve and say, hey, see, we especially I was really pissed after X Rebirth. You know, I mean, we got really bad reviews with X Rebirth and we were in that basement of below 50% or 50 to 60%, where we always will have our red review signal, and then and that for all of those years when we were developing X Rebirth on, we had to live with that stigma. Yeah, even though we saw that the people that now by that time bought the game were giving good reviews, it would never help us because we would never come out of that basement that we that hole that we dug ourselves, kind of. But I consider that fair because the game had a lot of problems at the beginning, and yeah, that's we did that to ourselves. But then this stuff happens and you see, there are people that are paying for reviews, but I'm sure Valve is fighting against that and is doing something against that. And now, I mean, unpaid keys are not having any effect on the thumbs up, thumbs down thing, for example. The only you have to buy the game on Steam to have an effect on that. And it's a little bit unfair again for us because lots of our fans bought the game at the Egosoft store, and they also, unfortunately, all don't contribute to our rating. But,
right. I mean, they show up in the review list, but it doesn't count toward the actual score.
And unfortunately, that is the important part, the actual score at the end. When the moment you have a red sign there, that's really stopping people from buying the game, and that hurts a developer, of course.
Yeah. So, we have more questions coming in from the chat. Someone was asking about balance because they were saying right now a fighter can take down a destroyer. They were saying, I've not seen that, but is that something you guys are aware of?
Well, there are certainly issues, and we are working on them. But I wouldn't say certainly not every fighter can take every destroyer. It depends on the destroyer, and it depends on the fighter. He's probably talking about an M ship with some strong turrets, and it's probably an M ship with a dock already, with an S ship docked on it already, and then if the capital ship is weaker, that's possible, and especially if you are good and take out the engines first. So it's not necessarily a balancing issue, but there are balancing issues, and we are always looking at it and getting more feedback and trying to improve little things little by little. We had, for example, some serious problems with turrets now after release, because shortly before release we were actually trying to deliberately make them a little dumber and unfortunately we went far over, and then people were complaining a lot about turrets being not hitting anything. And yeah, it's always working on those little screws to change things one way or the other.
Right. So I also asked around some of the I'm on a bunch of forums, and we're all just, a lot of us are giddy about your game. So well done there. But I asked some questions. I asked people if they had any questions about your game yesterday, and this is before that video came out, so you've already answered some of them. But I do have a couple of specific questions. Like, is Track IR coming? And if so, when?
Our list, but I cannot give a guarantee when. The stuff that I mentioned in that video that goes into 1.5 or 2.0, there's a when, or the when is already answered. We have 1.5 before Christmas, 2.0
right.
in January or February. Maybe this happens as well, more for the 2.0 version, because it's probably not a huge thing. We have some experience with Track IR already, because we have supported it in the past. So it may be easy and then will happen immediately, but it's just not on the top of our priority list. So that's why we currently don't have time to look into it. And
gotcha.
It will be supported sooner or later.
Now, one question that came up both when I asked on my forums and in the chat today is something about a venture system. I'm not sure what that is, but people are asking.
No idea what you're talking about. Never heard that word. Never, ever heard that word.
Huh.
Wait a little bit and you will find something out. Maybe in a week.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've only got maybe 10 hours into the game, and so like there's still a lot I don't know. Like someone on my YouTube videos like left like 15 to 20 comments on how to do things that I didn't do right in the video. Because I'm learning as I go, you guys. Because there wasn't a manual when I played.
Yeah, but those are the best videos for us. And I mean, this is the most realistic. You want to see somebody who has never, in the best case, never played an X game before, and then just see what do they get and what do they not get. And then that's where we were watching lots of streams after release. It's always it hurts us to see if somebody just doesn't get something after a couple of minutes. But if and that's luckily that is more often the case. And if somebody first doesn't get it, but then after just a couple of seconds or a minute, he finally finds it out, then we are very happy. And that's
another. Sorry, go ahead.
Problem with the I just wanted to mention the tutorials. That's because that plays into that, of course. I mean, the same issue. We have tutorials in the game that should solve a lot of that. Like if you really cannot figure out something, then there's this H button. You press H, and then you see a list of tutorials, and you can select which one you want to try out, and it should explain you something. But because of the complexity of the game, there's just a large number of tutorials we could make, and we only have so many. And even those that we have could actually go on longer or could be a lot better, because we could put in so much development time just in the tutorial section. Of course, in the best case, you shouldn't need them. In the best case itself, and oftentimes that also works fine, but it's always different people get always stuck at different points, and that's good when you have a tutorial at that. I
have to admit I did pretty much just about all the tutorials except for like the couple that you like. I haven't done the shipboarding tutorial yet because there hasn't been an opportunity to do that yet, so I know that pops up when like the time comes, but I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, I actually in my own stupidity forgot a few things from the tutorials. Like I forgot you hit O to hoover in nearby containers. I completely forgot about that. That's my fault. Not your fault. That's my fault.
Oh, it's totally normal, and it's still a weakness of the game if it happens too often, and because you don't want to memorize dozens of keys. Tutorial is just a help. It's as I said, the best case the game doesn't need a tutorial, and it's just there is just too many things to do in the game, and in the best case you just find them out when you need them. Like it would be silly to start by reading a manual first before you even go into the game, because there's so many things like sometimes you even spoil the fun if you read up about it first. I try to make an FAQ about a lot of the more advanced gameplay stuff, like people were asking about in support emails, asking about crew education. Why do I what does it help if I have better crew? How do I manage them between ships, and what are the advantages, disadvantages, and
Yeah, I've barely played with that, but I did read that, you know, their crew have star ratings and they can do better trades, and yeah, a lot of.
I mean, that's the intuitive part, right? I mean, no more you don't really need to know. If you want to know more, then there's the manual, then there is an FAQ, but what you don't need to know that. It's pretty intuitive that you see that somebody who has 5 stars is better than somebody who has 4 stars.
Yeah, that was it right off the bat. Like I got a new ship, the captain has 0 stars. It makes sense. New ship, new captain, but you know, they'll probably get more stars as they go. They do gain experience, and as they get they gain their star. Does their star rating go up as they do more stuff?
Yes, exactly. And there was a bug there actually, where people were hiring people from capital ships and basically just landing on NPC capital ships and hiring the crew on the NPC ship, and those people were very experienced already, and they got basically experienced crew right from the start. That was actually not intended, but it was possible. And, yeah,
that's funny actually.
It's cool. This is kind of bug that nobody would complain about, because they're just happy to have good crew.
So we have a question about carriers in X4. Are they going to be expanded upon? Like the question, the person who asked said they don't seem to offer much more fighter capacity than other ships and aren't really heavily armed. Are they going to be expanded upon in future updates?
Asset, when we say assets, what I mean is really new ships, new stations. This will mostly happen with the expansions. We can probably not offer a lot of new ships and normal free updates. We will make a lot of free updates, and this is mostly about the features. That can also mean improved carriers, and because of the functionality of what you do with them, or because of the balancing changes. Like, for example, I got some that, especially with carriers, we should work on the speed of those ships to make them a lot faster. But that's a dangerous thing to do. We will look into that and try it out. But that would of course make them more interesting for moving your fleet around, because currently the problem with carriers is that they are and the ships that they can potentially transport, but since they do not since your fleet may not be in not need so much protection, then you rather take the higher speed that the ship has on its own over the protection that it gets through the carrier. So yeah, that's balancing, and we will work on that. But new carriers, new capital ships will be probably reserved to the expansions.
That makes sense. Is there anything special at all for finding a data vault, or is it just an achievement? I didn't even know there were data vaults in the game. What's a data vault?
Data vault is some cool thing. It looks a little bit like a mini station with solar sails on it, or little station module with solar panels on it, and there's some things on it to interact with. You will find them out in the game, and they are not explained at all. You find them, and they look mysterious, and you observe them, and yeah, and use your spacesuit when you find one. And there's some stuff inside. And yes, there is something special because usually they all contain a little the data that you unlock with them, and that's usually a cutscene that explains the history of the X universe. So there's a lot of little cutscenes that you add to the timeline in the encyclopedia. If you open the encyclopedia, it has 2 sections on the left side, and that second section is timeline. And there you can see
I was wondering
entries there
about
are.
that. I was wondering what the deal with that was.
Those timeline entries are unlocked with data rolls, and they are cutscenes about the history of the universe. So you learn a little bit about what happened to the different races and how they are related to Earth, and what wars happened and why, and what happened with the gate shutdown, things like that. That's partially based on the books, partially based on the games, or both.
Well, I've not seen one yet, but that just gives me more of an impetus to explore. And I just wanted to say, I really love it's like a 2-tiered exploration system in this game. You can not only use the long range scanner thing to find stuff far away, but even when you get to a station, you use the scan mode to scan the station, to find those little sparkly bits, the little sparklers that get you blueprints or missions. I did have a question about that though. The scan mode for the stations. I'm not exactly sure, because I've noticed when you turn that on, bits of the station are colored differently, and I'm not exactly sure what that means. Is that a way to tell what you've scanned and what you haven't, for example?
It tells you what you haven't scanned yet, but it most importantly tells you which modules are unknown and in your encyclopedia. So if a station has a module on it, is made from station modules that you don't know yet, you would see that by the color. And once you do identify it by flying close, the color tells you what kind of functionality it has. If when you go into station building later, then you will see that those categories are pretty important. There are station modules that are for the actual production, if the station manufactures a product, then that's the production module. And then you have storage modules where the wares go and where the resources are stored. And then you have living sections where the workers live, and then you have connection modules that are just basically structural parts that connect the rest. Then there are docks, and all of those are the different categories, and the colors stand for those categories. And you can see them also in the building menu.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense, because I really do actually enjoy scanning stations. I don't know why. There's just I want to get this station to 100% for some reason. I don't even know. Someone's saying it's impossible to do that, though. From your ship, you apparently have to get into a spacesuit to scan a station to 100%. I thought I scanned one from the ship at 100%. Is that accurate?
Depends on what modules there are. Yes, there are modules that require spacesuit scanning to get to 100%, because there's this internal knowledge especially for storages, because once you know everything about a storage, you also know what's inside. And once you know what's inside, you know where you can steal stuff. You can steal stuff from stations by hacking them. And scanning a station to 100% can be pretty valuable information.
Oh, okay. So it is intentional, and it encourages you to use the spacesuit more, which is really. It took me so long to get even a handle on controlling that damn spacesuit. I will tell you what, because it's a bit different than huh? Sorry.
It's a bit harder. It doesn't have a big engine, so you struggle a bit more with inertia there.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. That was the problem I had about it. On the Twitch, someone said they haven't figured out how to do hacking yet. I haven't either. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's intentionally complicated. Not complicated. It's intentionally hard. Not really complicated once you figure it out, but there's some items that you can craft, which can then be used basically on panels in the state. And you can also observe some pirates that do it, but you can see pirate ships sometimes flying around stations and stealing goods. And you can actually profit from them stealing. Actually, you can pick up the containers before they do, and then you can also make money that way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I just see criminals flying around stations every now and again. I usually just shoot them down.
No, that's different. I mean, I'm talking about the bigger ships. They're pretty. Sometimes they are flying under false factions, though. So you might see a ship that looks like a normal Argon, but behaves maybe a little bit suspicious by flying very close to a station, and then suddenly containers appear. And it tries to pick them up. And if you scan that ship, then you will find out that it has a wrong identity. So that these are basically undercover pirates stealing goods. And you can shoot them down without losing reputation, and you can steal their stuff. So.
We also have someone on YouTube saying they have a Teladi guild mission bug with putting satellites to 100%. It's like, that sounds like a bug. But it's also a hard mission. Like, do you have to be really precise when you put like some satellite missions down?
You mean coverage, 100% coverage of a sector?
Yeah, I believe that's what they're saying. Yeah. Increase satellite coverage to 100. I never managed to increase the coverage no matter where I place the advanced satellites, they're saying.
There's certainly bugs in some missions, and not just the amount of missions, more the complexity of the universe. Some missions work in one place but don't work in another, and it's really hard to test. But yeah, we are working on it.
Yeah, I figured, because it's people were saying it's smaller than the other X games, but the sectors are huge for one thing, and you were saying this in the video. The map is bigger than people think.
Yes, exactly. This is indeed, I think, a little bit unfair. Some people are criticizing that when they haven't really played a lot yet. This is just because the map tries to give you a good overview of the universe doesn't mean the universe is small. Actually, indeed, sectors are a lot bigger than they were in any X game before. And you cannot calculate the size of the universe just by counting the sectors. Yes, X3 games may have had more sectors in some cases, but it's not comparable in total size.
Right, and the long-range scan doesn't even scan like the entirety of the sector. It goes out to what, 300 kilometers or something like that? Yeah.
I don't know the exact number, but it has a limitation in kilometer range, yes. And then,
Yeah, exactly. So there's a limit. So even if you scan a bunch, you still have to go out. If you want to reveal the whole sector, you still got to go out and find stuff. And I do love the long-range scanning mode. I love how it colors things differently. Like, what are those orange things? Oh, those are asteroids. Whee! Okay. Let's go check those out. So as an exploration nut, I have to say I'm very happy with your game. Because so many games don't do exploration. Either they don't even try to do exploration, or they half-ass it, you know? And so it's really, really great to see just a game that encourages you to, like, you don't have to, like, I love how, like, it seemed like in the earlier X games, to make money, you really had to do trading. But I like how in this game, it seems like you don't have to do all the trading to make all the money if you don't want to. You can explore stuff. You could do missions. You know, it seems like there's more variety and opportunity in this one than the previous games.
That is absolutely the goal. You shouldn't be dependent on one activity alone. That's with exploration, you can make, for example, a lot of money also with I don't know. Have you tried crystals? Did you find any crystals on asteroids?
I have not found crystals yet. I've been doing a lot of I love missions, so I've been doing a lot of those. But I have been exploring a little more, but I haven't found any crystals yet.
Some that are pretty rewarding once you find them, but this is one of those things that are really hard to balance, because some people find them all the time because they are really looking for them very carefully, and then this can be something.
Right.
I also have problems with finding them myself. Maybe.
Well, it sounds like they shouldn't be the easiest thing to find. So that makes
No,
sense.
definitely not. But they are very rewarding once you find them. At least some. There's different types, and yeah, it's complex.
Oh, someone on Twitch, I can't say that. I don't know how to say that. Saying it's like its own mini game, finding crystals. So I think that's going to be the next thing I try. Because that's one thing I like. It's like if I don't feel like doing any missions, I could just, I'm just going to start exploring or scanning stations or whatever and finding stuff. So it's a really great, you have a good flow in this game as to bouncing around to do different things, which is, for someone like me who has a really short attention span, so important. So well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear.
Yeah, I think there was only one moment where like I was flying around, I didn't find any new missions. It's like I feel like I should take a break and walk away for a little bit, but I'll come back and I'll find something else to do. And it didn't take me long. Like I scanned a thing. It's like, oh, there's a station out there. Let's check that out. See if they have any missions or see what it is. You know? So, oh, are there derelict ships in the game? I didn't know there were derelict ships. Wait, what? Someone asked if there's a set number of derelict ships or are they procedurally generated? I didn't even know there were derelicts.
They are, yeah, and I think they are. The majority of them is placed. I'm not 100% sure if there are now also placed ones. We discussed it, but I'm not sure. The guy who is in charge of that is, of course, not here now with me. I don't want to say something wrong, but I think probably the majority, if not all, are placed manually.
That makes sense. Oh, here's another interesting question. Will we get the ability to set default behavior for multiple ships at once? Like I get...
Good point. Yeah, maybe. Not yet. Yeah, that's...
that almost sounds like... That sounds like making it an RTS almost, like do a drag and select.
But you can set you can set a default behavior for all of your objects. That's already implemented. What you can't do is make a multi-select and then set all of them to and set all of them to the same default behavior. I think that's what he means. You can already give orders to all. So there's this maybe a little bit too much in detail now, but there's orders are basically short-term things. You can, for example, tell a ship to fly to a place. That would be an order, or to trade with a good. That would be an order. Whereas a behavior is something that is permanent. So you can tell a ship to auto trade as opposed to doing one particular trade. That would be a behavior. And then there's the actions to things like, how do you react when you meet a pirate? How do you react when the police scans you? That last bit you can set globally for all ships, and you can override it per ship individually. First bit about orders, that's also something you can do with multi-select. So you can select a group of ships and then say you all fly to this position, or you all attack that station. What's not possible is to do a multi-select and then say, okay, you all ships now get the behavior auto trade. That's this.
It sounds like people do want that. They're talking about that on Twitch. It sounds like people do want that. I don't know how hard that would be to implement. It doesn't sound easy. But it does sound like that is one thing people want. Is to multi-select behavior change. Yeah. So that'd be something to note down. So we actually have to start wrapping this up. So I'm gonna ask the final question. Someone asked this earlier, but I didn't get to ask it. Will there be pets in the game at all?
Oh, I haven't thought of that.
Yeah, I would love to have I would love to have a ship's cat. Honestly, I would love, like, what was the cat in Alien? Oh God, what was the cat's name? Spaz, do you remember what? But yeah,
the question is, are you willing to do? Are you willing to do microtransactions for it? Are you willing to buy your cat?
I would pay $1. Yeah, Jonesy, thank you, Jenner Newen over on Twitch. I would pay $1 for Jonesy for my ships. Yes, I would pay $1 for that. Absolutely. Yeah, like something. I would pay $1 for like Elite does this, and I don't mind, that you can pay $1 or $2 for a bobblehead, for your ship. I think that's fine. I don't mind that. Someone spent time making that, so I don't mind paying for that,
Yeah, of course.
The other way to go about that would be make an expansion in which multiple animals are added to the game, and as part of your station, you can make a zoo.
I don't
think we are going. I don't think we are going to do a zoo manager game out of that. But yeah.
No, but the idea that you could have just maybe like just a section in which you have a zoo. It doesn't have to even make money. It's just something that's there, cosmetic.
Oh no, I was thinking like you have a ship with a dozen cats on it. You become like galactic cat guy. You have a horde of cats on your ship.
Intergalactic cat lady.
Yeah, intergalactic cat lady. Exactly. That's where my brain was going with it. Not the zoo thing. I've got 30 cats on my ship. It smells like cat pee all the time. I've got 14 litter boxes. I always have a supply of litter in my cargo.
Litter boxes are also available for microtransactions.
Oh yeah, that's a great place to end it on right there. Microtransaction, litter boxes, and cats. Oh my god. So folks, this is an early morning show. I actually have to run to work, so I hate to do this, but we gotta wrap up because it's I gotta get to work. I wish I didn't, because we got more people asking questions, and I'm sure we could talk about this even more. Maybe we should have you back on in a few months to revisit, like maybe after 2.0 or whatever, maybe when the next expansion comes out.
Happy to do that.
Yeah, we can have you back because people are asking a lot of questions. Just calling sick. Kermit the Frag. Oh, that's a great username on Twitch, Kermit the Frag. That is a great username. That might be one of the best I've seen in a long time. Just calling sick. That is great. I wish I could. But folks, I want to thank you all for stopping by and watching and listening and asking questions. Bernd, I want to thank you for taking time out of your, I'm sure, very busy day with all the bug fixes and all the patches to talk to us about not only X4, but the series as a whole. It's been very educational. I'm not calling in sick, you guys. Thank you so much, but I'm not calling in sick. What if my boss is watching? My boss knows I do this. That'd be ridiculous. That'd be terrible if I did that. You guys are awesome. So just a couple of programming notes before we wrap up. This Thursday on our LAN party, we're going to be returning to a much beloved game, Space Beast Terror Fright. It's had some huge improvements and changes since the last time we played. So we're going to be space hulking around in procedurally generated hulks, fighting aliens and dying to our own bullets as much as their teeth.
Dying horribly.
Oh yeah, because there's friendly fire in that game, and I have a very quick trigger. I've killed cohorts many times. So if you haven't played Space Beast Terror Fright, by the way, it's amazing. It's
4-player co-op.
4-player co-op. It's probably the best space hulky type game, period, I think. It's definitely better than the official, was it Deathwing? It's definitely better than that. And then next week, next week's going to be our last podcast of the year. And so we're going to take a look back at what a very busy year 2018 has been. It's been a very busy year for space games, which is great. A lot of great stuff like X4 has come out. Oh, Garriott, it is Space Beast Terror Fright is the name of the game we are playing on Thursday. That game is amazing. But yeah, next week we're going to take a look back at 2018. What a just really great year it's been for gaming and space gaming. It's been just a phenomenal year. And then we're going to be on holiday break. So thanks for watching and listening, everyone. And it's been great talking to all of you. Bernd, it's been great talking to you. It's been a great episode. And have a wonderful day, y'all, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.